Coming up on the GRIMM Exchange.
Success at any cost. Today we look at bad business and corporate horror with Devin.
And we take a look at George Romero's long-lost film, The Amusement Park, with Luke Greensmith.
And we chat about the illicit activities of an insurance company as we get a sneak peek into our Q&A with the cast and crew of Keeping Company. And this and more on today's episode of
The GRIMM Exchange.
Hey horror fans, I'm Mariam.
And I'm Marcus, and welcome to the GRIMM Exchange, your one-stop shop for all your horror entertainment news needs.
To stay up to date with all our content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Movies, games, television, what's going on in the world of horror? Time to check out our latest horror headlines.
Video game news to start off with, and the video game conference E3 has been taking place over the past few days, and Capcom has given gamers another reason to head back to Resident Evil Village with confirmation that a DLC is on the way. There are no details yet, but fans are obviously going to start speculating what could be, and there could even be a chance that Ada 1 would be brought back after she was cut from the original game. In addition, the delayed standalone multiplayer pack-in in Resident Evil Reverse will now be aiming for a July release. It's still free and is still being included with Resident Evil Village. Just ahead of E3, we also got to see some gameplay footage for the upcoming Evil Dead game from Boss Team Games and Saber Interactive. The game will see, or should I say here, Bruce Campbell reprise his role as Ash Williams, plus it will also feature Cheryl Williams from The Evil Dead, Arthur from Army of Darkness, we'll also get to see Scotty from The Evil Dead, as well as Pablo Simon Bolivar and Kelly Maxwell from Ash vs. Evil Dead. The gameplay trailer also reveals that Evil Ash from Army of Darkness will also be included in the game, which allows you to play either as the heroes or the evil Kandarian demon. Now, while the first two Friday the 13th movies were filmed in New Jersey and Connecticut, Part 3 seen the movie franchise move to California, with the Velozat Motion Picture Ranch in Santa Clarita Valley playing host to the primary Higgins Haven location. Now, sadly, that house burned down back in 2006, which forever changed the iconic filming location. Jump ahead to 2021 though, and Friday the 13th franchise.com reports that the Higgins Haven structure is being rebuilt as it originally looked. This scoop comes courtesy of the YouTube Scott on Tape, and during the video it showed him visiting the locations, and he had a discussion with Daniel Velozat, who's the owner of the Velozat Motion Picture Ranch. He broke the news that it was being rebuilt. He said, "Soon we're going to be putting the house back in, putting the lake back in, and kind of rebuilding this Friday the 13th set back to its original glory days. There's even talks of something happening down the road, so we'll see what happens." As for the barn from the Friday the 13th Part 3, the particular structure still stands on the ranch to this day, looking much the same as it did back in the early 80s when the movie was filmed. At this time, the Velozat Motion Picture Ranch is not open to the public, so don't plan on going to visit, even if you have your Jason Voorhees face mask on. Now, you may recall back in 2015 a creep who called himself the Watcher, who forced a family to move out of their house after his increasingly disturbing behaviour towards them. Well, it didn't take long for the Hollywood big shots to begin competing for the film rights to the creepy story. Well, it turns out that Netflix had acquired the rights back in 2018, with the feature film planned at this time, which would have been directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, who created the documentary series Catfish, about Neve, who then went on to create the successful MTV reality docu-series of the same name. However, plans changed, and Deadline reports that the story of The Watcher will now be told through a limited series created by Ryan Murphy, aka American Horror Story and the likes. The two who were going to direct will stay on as executive producers, and Naomi Watts and Bobby Cannavale is going to star in it as well. The series, which evokes the first season of Murphy's hit show American Horror Story, is inspired by the infamous Watcher house in New Jersey. A couple bought the 1905 Dutch colonial revival in 2014 for $1.4 million and were forced to abandon the home after they got chilling letters from the Watcher, who claimed to have been watching the house for decades. "I am the Watcher, bring me your young blood," one of the notes read. The family put the house back on the market, it didn't sell, and they rented it out. In 2017, the renter received a sinister letter from the Watcher, which threatened their life. The house ultimately sold in 2019 for under $1 million, and the Watcher has remained a mystery ever since. Now finally, we've seen cinema starting to make a comeback as lockdowns have started to ease across parts of the world, and horror is performing very well. After being shoved from the #1 spot by The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It last week, John Krasinski's sequel, A Quiet Place Part 2, has again returned to the top spot of the box office charts this past weekend. In the United States, the film has to date scared up $108.9 million, making it the very first movie released during the pandemic to cross the $100 million domestically, and worldwide it has grossed just under $200 million. Back in 2018, the original A Quiet Place ended its worldwide run with $340 million back in 2018, with $188 million made domestically. So just in 3 weeks and during a pandemic, the sequel is not actually too far behind those numbers, which is really impressive. And there you go. With that, those were your horror headlines. Big business creates beasts of a particular making. While some may feel driven to rise the ranks of the corporate ladder without giving up a thorough facial routine, some people lose their identity within a large company or are chewed up and spit out. It's no wonder that we are drawn to horror films that deal with the dangers of the corporate world. With us today is writer, producer and actor Devin, who has made his contribution with Keeping Company.
It's not much of a stretch to imagine an office environment as a setting for a horror film. The majority of us have worked that 9-to-5 grind and know the true realities of corporate evil, the monotony of a boring desk job, or the never-ending stress of trying to achieve career goals. All these things take a toll on the mind and body, and so the horror genre is the perfect place to lay these realities out. And while some of the following examples are ridiculous and often hilarious, their being rooted in truth makes them relatable and therefore horrifying. In Keeping Company, two insurance salesmen take on more than they can handle when they make a deal with a customer who has some killer tendencies. The two salesmen are polar opposites. Sonny is ruthless and ambitious, while Noah is a goofy, happy-go-lucky guy. Sonny's desire to rise further in the company is a way to prove something to his overbearing father, while Noah is a doting husband and father-to-be who wants to support his family. The two are kept captive in a basement by the guy they're trying to dupe into signing their insurance policy, leading to a dark experience for both. The violence directed to these two characters feels cruel and unnecessary, but can be seen as their moral comeuppance. While the two have redeeming qualities, their allegiance is to a corrupt company, where closing a deal, no matter what, comes first. Frustratingly, though, they are just pawns. It is Paula, the CEO, who is embezzling the insurance money, making fake promises to her workers and getting away with it. She doesn't know the names of her employees and views them as replaceable in their uniformed red suit jackets. As long as she comes out on top each time, she is fine.
Corporate horror is about the human condition. Our lives are so wrapped up in our work, and work demands everything from us for the most part. Obviously, everyone has different jobs and whatnot, but if you are working within a corporation, if you're working to climb up the ladder, you have to give your everything to that work and to that corporation.
The theme of identity in a work environment is most famously dealt with in American Psycho. Patrick Bateman is constantly mistaken for other people, creating a sense of isolation to his character. He doesn't correct anyone, adding to his dissociation to reality. His colleagues at the law firm also refer to him by his last name, and the uniformity of these supporting characters in how they act and dress creates this idea of an interchangeable workplace. You are only valued if you are bringing in the big money, but you can be replaced. This constant competition with his colleagues is played for laughs in the infamous business card scene. But the implications of what is happening is a man losing all connection to reality just under the surface. Another man losing all sense of reality is Richard E. Grant's character Dennis in How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Here we see an overworked and stressed out advertising executive who seemingly has everything, just like Bateman, but a new campaign for pimple cream sends him over the edge. He begins to realize the implications behind the ethics of advertising and develops his own pimple, which grows a face and starts to talk to him. He wants to take over Dennis's life to take him back to the unethical, successful ways of the past, and he succeeds. Dennis is replaced. Like with the previous film, evil succeeds with no consequences, while the hard worker is the one who suffers.
To show the intensity that we all feel in the mundane day-to-days that we experience at work. So it's like those feelings of stress or anxiety that we feel. It's like, well, people will hold on to those things and they'll take it home and they'll, have to decompress on their own or whatever. But then a few hours later, they got to come back into work and put that armor on and just put their head down and get to it. But like when you're in corporate horror, you can heighten those feelings and really build dread out of just the simple feelings of anxiety, of stress, and also the ideas of like, are you valuable, are you worthy, all those like thoughts and feelings that maybe aren't even always verbalized in your day-to-day.
But it's not all so bleak. While horror provides a great opportunity to reflect society's evil doings, it also gives us an opportunity to fight back. In Mayhem, Derek is a lawyer excited to start his career at a prestigious law firm, but after a few months, he is a jaded, downtrodden husk of his former self, ignoring his family to climb the ladder at his corporate job. The backstabbing, low-life ways of his colleagues has sucked the soul out of him, and that's before he's double-crossed by a colleague and loses his job. Luckily, a virus spreads through the office that makes everyone act on their worst impulses. Using this new power, he climbs his way to the top to take down and replace the head of the company. Ironically, becoming infected by a virus that turned him into a killer brought him back to his ethical self. Similarly, in Office Uprising, slacker Desmond is dialing it in at his office job at a weapons manufacturer, where the military distributes a drink around the office that turns everyone into violent murderers. Desmond, along with his girlfriend and close friend, must get out of the building before they're ripped to pieces. Like in Mayhem, our central, good-hearted characters are rewarded at the end by surviving, while the corrupted others all meet grisly deaths. It is during their fight to leave the office they realize what they really want in life, and Desmond discloses his talent for game design, offering a glimmer of hope that you can get out of that miserable job you have, hopefully with less murder though. While there is deception, lies, blood, and guts in every corner of office horror, it supplies us with a surprisingly entertaining look at something we know is often rooted in corruption. But that's the appeal. Reality can be grim enough, we may as well watch and root for the little guy to overcome the bigger evils. One day, it could be us.
Everyone loves to talk about work-life balance and you got to do self-care and all that, but it's like all of that just gets washed away so quickly and so easily because you have to hit certain numbers to be productive and to be considered valuable. In Jaws, they're fighting that shark. Are our jobs and our work environments, are those the shark for us now? You know what I mean? Is that what's scary to us now? Am I going to be consumed and eaten alive by this thing?
And now it's time for the segment that puts the pep in your step. The Grimm Zone. No, I'm joking. The Grimm Zone!
Today's Grimm Zone is sponsored by Rocket Artistry. Rocket Artistry turns nails into works of art. Whether you're looking for designs of your favorite horror icons, or just want to put something on with a dark and subtle flair, Rocket Artistry has a range of designs to choose from, or can custom make your dream accessories. When putting together a complete outfit, don't forget it's the little things that count. If you too want those miniature masterpieces, check out their Instagram page at It Artistry.
Today we're looking at evil corporations.
Let's take a look at the most notable naughty companies.
There is no shortage of evil throughout the horror landscape, but there most definitely is an added layer when evil corporations are profiting off their despicable ways. But which of these bad businesses are the worst? If you don't mind a few spoilers, it's time for GRIMM Exchange's top 10 most evil corporations in horror films. Number 10. International Genetics Inc., the Jurassic Park franchise. InGen wasn't always bad. It started out specializing in the resurrection of extinct animals, thus leading to the infamous Jurassic Park. But, spoiler alert, that didn't go well. Once the park failed, the company hired a new CEO and decided to diversify their business strategies, which meant going, amongst other places, to the military. We can't say for sure, but they probably wanted to weaponize their research. We imagine it would involve riding a T-Rex. Number 9. Max Rager, iZombie. Can we blame a company for wanting to develop a badass sports drink and accidentally creating zombies in the process? Well, perhaps. But hunting down your victims as a cover-up and selling a version of the drink to the open market anyway and then selling it to the big military for big bucks? Yeah, that's unethical. Number 8. Omni Consumer Products, the RoboCop franchise. OCP is a great example of what can happen when you set up a privatized military force. Like with many of the companies on this list, the main goal is profit, and to guarantee it, this mega corporation needs to ensure that it stays on top, leaving Delta City more like a police state than a safe haven. Number 7. Soylent Corporation, Soylent Green. In a world plagued by hunger and scarcity of resources, the Soylent Corporation seems to provide the solution with its supposed plankton-based nutritional source. Only problem is, they're lying about the main ingredient. We love a good supplement, but Long Pig isn't quite to our taste. Number 6. GeneCo, Repo the Genetic Opera. The idea of providing organs for a fat fee to patients in need already leaves a bad taste in our mouths. Hunting them down with trained assassins to repossess the organs that clients can't pay for is even more horrible. But when you take into consideration the suspiciously high number of organ failures as of late, then something seems very wrong. Number 5. Dante's Laboratories, Dead Heat. This company is all about unethical experimentation. Whilst reanimating wealthy people for profit may be justifiable, resurrecting others to return as zombie slaves is pretty horrible. That said, we definitely love that the owner of the company is played by Vincent Price. Number 4. The Spectacular Optical Corporation, Videodrome. From the outside, this company is your run-of-the-mill optician, but on the inside... Actually, we're not going to spoil this one, as the Cronenberg film has gone under the radar for many. Check it out, but be warned, it's our number 4 for a reason. Number 3. The Weyland-Yutani Corporation, Alien franchise. Weyland-Yutani has become the example in the sci-fi world for the corporation that will stop at nothing to rake in those profits. Sending employees into life-threatening danger, covering up the tracks of their ethically questionable endeavors at any cost, and capturing extraterrestrial life to create weapons out of their biology are just a few examples. Number 2. Umbrella Corporation, Resident Evil franchise. Oh, Umbrella Corp, you nasty bastard. There was already enough of an ethical debate around whether eugenics is acceptable or not, which was the fictional business's initial goal in the Wesker project. But in working towards it, they created the T-virus, which ultimately destroyed the planet. Instead of cutting their losses and apologizing, they then continued being evil, including using a military subsidy to protect their interests. Umbrella Corp is bad news.
Regenerate is a registered trademark of the Umbrella Corporation. Our business is life itself.
Number 1. Silver Shamrock Novelties. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Okay, kiddies, this one is a doozy. If you haven't seen this film yet, I suggest skipping ahead and watching the movie in full, because this story is bonkers. So, why have we made this our number 1? Well, Silver Shamrock is a marketing company that has developed a cult following. One year, they start selling cheap Halloween masks for children, which, due to their clever and catchy campaign, spread like wildfire. And long story short, the masks contain a microchip that also contains a small fragment of ancient stone. When the company broadcasts their signal, a swarm of snakes and insects are set free, destroying every child wearing the mask. And why are they doing it? Simple! The mass sacrifice is a ritual to revive an ancient age of witchcraft. Yeesh.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
And those are our top 10. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments below. In 1973, the great George A. Romero made an educational film about ageism and elderly abuse that was thought to be lost until a 16mm print was discovered in 2017. Very recently, Shudder acquired the rights and currently has the film in their collection to be streamed. But is this piece of movie history worth viewing? Luke Greensmith is with us to give his take on the film.
This is a very odd movie to discuss. It was certainly a very odd movie to watch. The Amusement Park is a 4K restoration of a previously thought lost 1973 George Romero project, and as well as being an odd watch, it has something of an odd story behind it. Romero was commissioned by the Lutheran Service Society of Western Pennsylvania, who wanted an educational film to raise awareness about elder abuse. What they got certainly met the brief, but upon watching it, the people who commissioned it immediately buried it. At this point, it was assumed gone forever. It was never meant to be a big commercial picture in the first place, and once the Lutheran Service Society was done with it, that should have been that. Only a complete reel of the film was found in 2017 that would go on to be played in a 2019 festival that led to its current restoration, which has now been picked up by Shudder, released to all English-speaking regions at the same time earlier this month. The general quality threw me off here at first, although you can definitely feel Romero on the other side of the camera. It all feels a bit rough. The 16mm film restoration may have been a part of that, being a grainy 4:3 aspect ratio box with a slightly off sound. Nothing too surprising from a 70s project with an indie feel, but I do wonder if something was lost along the way. The whole thing is a cacophony both in visuals as well as sound, yet there's an overall effect to this that works with the themes of the piece. Romero does get a lot of mileage out of the park rides and filming in a lot of tight spaces, which people would take for granted in the digital age, but was probably a massive pain shooting on film without studio backing at the time. The cast is pretty much just the lead and a bunch of supporting actors, a lot of whom are volunteers looking to help out with the good cause the project was intended for. Outside of the strong lead, performances are sometimes pretty odd, but in a way that adds to how surreal everything is. It's no clean masterpiece with a bottomless budget, but everything going on here is adding to the overall weird message it was shooting for. The only point at which it feels relatively normal is the documentary-style framing device talk with the lead. From there, it's a thematically appropriate rollercoaster ride going through a strange series of pretty much plotless abstract scenarios. You're here to suffer along with the point of view character, being as confused and upset as he is. This isn't an in-your-face fright fest of a film. It's probably not fair to write it off as not being scary though. There's an overwhelmingly stark experience with a lead who can really sell confusion and despair on a level that resonates. If I had to compare this to anything in an attempt to explain how it's trying to disturb its audience, it would have to be Eraserhead. While less viscerally gross, outside of the framing device it deals out nothing but constant surreal pressure on the viewer. The fact that for the most part everything is metaphorical just makes it more oppressive as you follow it along from one crushing scenario to the next, run through this amusement park analogy. I've seen some early comments about people simply not being able to finish the amusement park. It's not extreme cinema by any stretch, but it's just too damn bleak for some people to manage the full sub 1 hour runtime. Ultimately, it's a hard project to recommend without some caveats. The amusement park doesn't want to tell you a story, it wants to make you feel something, to get you into a specific state of mind and empathy. It's very much an art house surrealist experience that almost entirely lacks a plot or story as you might expect, but it will certainly stick with you after you're done watching it. It's hard to say that it entirely works, some sequences certainly feeling a lot weaker and resonating emotionally less than some of the standouts among them. Plus, as I've already mentioned, it's pretty relentlessly bleak. It's not an easy experience to recommend, but you're not likely to see anything else quite like this, and coming in at under an hour, it's worth it just to enjoy something new from the late great Romero. Just be aware, this isn't a movie meant to entertain. This is an abstract argument trying to give you a perspective on the existential dread of aging via bizarre metaphor.
If you too have not heard enough of Luke's soothing voice talking about dark things, check out his podcast, Luke Law, on all main podcast apps.
We here at GrimmFest TV absolutely love horror films, but we equally like meeting the people who make them. For that, we tend to conduct Q&As at our festivals or meet them behind the scenes. And in order to show you some of those clips, let's head to the GrimmFest basement. Ooh. Ah yes, the GrimmFest basement. What have we here? Keeping company. What an interesting and intriguing poster. Now, we were very lucky to have the opportunity to interview some of the cast and crew behind Keeping Company at one of our festivals. We have the whole interview uploaded, but before we dedicate ourselves to a full 20 minutes, why don't we just take a look at some clips from that Q&A, shall we?
The first 4 drafts were a pretty broad comedy, probably studio level broad comedy, and then we kind of came to a crossroads because we found the tone was really starting to get muddled, that things were getting darker, and we were just trying to figure out, we're like, what do we really want to do with this film? And we did a page 1 rewrite. We really hashed it all out, and we really leaned into theme.
What if we totally went the other way with it and kind of changed what you would normally see? Like, I think when you watch this movie, you're expecting that Sonny and Noah, like, they're gonna, find their way through this. You're not expecting that. It's like, felt like you were a little bit on the fence about joining on the project. But
I was not going to join the project because I'm a vegetarian. And I'm a vegetarian because I can't stand seeing animals suffer and people suffer, and this film is just full of suffering. And I thought, there's going to be people out there who are going to go, oh, this is great, they're suffering.
I was really excited, like, as soon as they reached out, because I really respect all their other work that they've made, so I was excited to be part of it. Then when I read the script, I was so like, wait, what? And I was like, and just the fact that I had feeling that when I read it, I was like, this is great. Like
I am intrigued. Let's take a look at a trailer, perhaps. See if it's really compelling.
Hey, you can't just hit and run like that!
Hey, listen, I told you you don't have insurance.
Today's your lucky day, because of cast insurance, your life is our life.
You really? I promise, this will be a lot quicker than calling the police.
Beautiful home you have here. Let's go take a look at that basement.
We have guests, I see.
They're not like the others.
That's no matter, sweetie.
You need to unlock the door so we can finalize your policies. We can't help you if you don't let us.
No one can help you now.
Exactly. Wait, what? We have other policies!
Well, I'm sold. Make sure you check out this horror comedy throughout the festival circuit, and if you don't mind a spoiler here or there, check out the full interview on our channel. That's all we have time for on today's episode of the GRIMM Exchange.
Remember to support the horror industry by watching films, playing games, and reading books.
And speaking of films, don't forget to check out the rest of our channel, GrimmFest TV, to catch the marvelously morbid makings of the independent filmmakers we would like to feature.
And finally, special thanks to our sponsors, It Artistry. We'll see you next time on
The GRIMM Exchange.
If I can